streaming.
My headphones on.
Why? Going in. We're fighting. Open up your mind, stand up, become righteous. Why? Why is it like this? Instead of hate, it should be love we invite in. You don't agree, then you're the problem that we're fighting. Open up your mind, stand up, become righteous. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome back to another episode. We have a bit of a solemn, strange topic for today, but it's important. Before we get into that, let's just start. How's everyone's week been so far? It's halfway through. It's the hump day of like the rest of the week that we can try and make better or enjoy even more than we already have been. Lindsay, how's your week been? That's some good news. Got any good news?
Actually, other than today, the students were a bit wild today. I think the wind got to them. But yesterday, I mean, today they were still brilliant, even though they were a bit wild. But yesterday, I just had one of those days in the classroom where all the learning seemed to be engaged with and progress was being made. And
It's just work.
I was watching those connections happening, and there's like particular students that were in the room that haven't engaged in school for like years. And there they were, and it looked so traditional. They were like sat over the desk and they had laptops, they were doing research, and I just felt that overwhelming joy of this is why I do this job. So that was
oh, that's made me feel so much better.
Yeah,
that's the bit of news that I need. I'm like, isn't Mercury out of retrograde right now? Maybe that has something to do with it. Everyone's brains are working.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I know I was just thinking about this Saturday, I think it is the official start of autumn. So is it like one of the equinoxes type thing?
Okay, yeah.
So one of the turns of the wheel.
Does that mean for what do we need to do at that time?
So what you could take the opportunity to do on Saturday is to reflect on the year so far. Think about what your goals were for 2023 and how close you are to achieving those, or any kind of achievements that you've had. And then anything that's still kind of sitting there and you feel like, you've not achieved that, think about what final kind of action points you can put in for the last part of the year. Because we are coming to winter, which is the darker months and the time of year that we can kind of turn inwards and look after ourselves and heal and grow ready for next year. So
definitely. It's almost that hibernation of like the soul, isn't it? Like, let me just like go retreat for a bit and I'll be back next year with my...
Exactly. Well, we've gone through the harvest kind of period now of harvesting the fruits of our labour of the year. So that's why I think it's that final kind of opportunity to really think what's that last push of the year going to look like.
Yeah. Are we going to make some jam with the fruit? Are we going to...
What we're going to do with the fruit? We're going to share it. To give that fruit out and make sure that everybody is feeling ready for the winter.
Hope you get your fruit by Christmas. Hope you get your jam, whatever it is.
I hope nobody's taking this conversation too literally.
I know, yeah. Like, this is going to be a serious episode, isn't it? And here we are. I think getting your jam.
We're probably avoiding in some respects because we've both felt so uncomfortable all day knowing that this topic is being broached.
It's a defence technique for sure. So there's no beating around the bush, is there? And before we start this, I want to preface it by we're not trying to make this about us. The reason I know a lot of people be like, what are you making this video for? You didn't even know him. No, we didn't know. We don't know Russell Brand. We volunteered for his festival and we had a great time at the festival. What we experienced there was a great sense of community.
Yeah.
We've made friends for life there, people that I'll love forever. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are feeling exactly the same way as we do. Maybe feeling on the other side, but there's going to be a lot of mixed feelings.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. There's a lot of confusion.
Yeah. There's opinions going about and they are breaking communities that
all of us have worked so hard to build.
Yeah. It's breaking my heart to think that there's like solid communities out there that are actually arguing with each other right now. And we're not going to be focusing on opinions, our own, anyone else's. And
we're not going to be focusing on this particular case, but the kind of the impact a case like this can have on communities, on people personally.
If you're part of a fandom, then that's going to be part of your life. It's going to be a deep interest to you, and something like this can rock how your brain works, how you should think about certain things. And so this is us just reaching out to especially a neurodivergent community who are at higher risk of parasocial relationships. I'll be exploring my own that I've had.
And this, can I just say, parasocial relationship, it's the first time I've come across the term. Yeah, so I think if you could explain it as that would be a really lovely way to kind of introduce why we think this topic is really important.
100%. So I have actually got, let's put you on React Cam.
Here she goes, look, with the PowerPoint. Organised as ever, this is why I love her.
Doing something. So, parasocial relationships. If I just look at the definition right now, parasocial relationships are one-sided relationships where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time, and the other party, the persona, is completely unaware of the other's existence. Parasocial relationships are most common with celebrities, and then stuff like sports teams, stuff like that. As I'm sure you can see there. Now, you've not got React Cam. I'm lying to you, aren't I?
So this is kind of referring to people that are huge fans of particular celebs, maybe, or sports stars. So like, you know, we watch a lot of the boxing and I get so invested in the characters to the point where I feel like I know those characters, and it's going through those trials and tribulations with them as though they're my friend and they don't even know me.
So there's a really good everyone experiences these relationships. You feel them and you're like, you feel part of that team, right?
Yeah.
We won that or we lost that. What the hell?
Well, that is basically what it's built on as well, I suppose, isn't it? We wouldn't have celebrities if we didn't get behind them, and we wouldn't have football
100%.
teams and sports if we didn't get behind them in such a passionate way.
100%. The reason that these, influencers can make money is because they can influence you by their charm, the way they are,
what they're wearing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that person's cool. That person helped me. That person gave me good advice. And there's different levels to this, as you can see. I think you can see this.
So for you Instagram viewers, we are on YouTube as well, live right now.
You want a better view than that?
Yeah, you want a better view, especially of Steph. You can barely see her, just on the edge. And she's got this wonderful PowerPoint for us, which explains parasocial relationships as well.
And how to navigate them when things like this happen.
I'm definitely going to need some of this advice.
Yeah, if you are chronically online, like myself, this will be something very easy, because people that, breaking that fourth wall with podcasts, people talking to you, vlogs, a lot of online content.
Yeah.
You feel a lot more connected than necessarily, a politician that addresses a big group of people, or maybe the news, or something on EastEnders where they're talking to each other, they don't interact with you necessarily.
Levels. But that's a good question. So when I was younger...
No.
Yeah, okay. When I was younger, like, me and my friends used to like crush on, older lads or whatever, and they were not aware of our existence.
Yeah.
But we were totally invested in their existence.
100%.
So is this a parasocial relationship?
Yeah, 100%. It's a very strange. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be people that are just like, that doesn't fit within that. But to me, that is a one-sided relationship where the other person has no idea that that's going on.
It's quite intense.
And a lot of these fantasy, because you don't know them, is built on fantasy, make-believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Make up in your own mind.
No wonder the neurodivergent community would feel more susceptible to developing these, because even one of the young people that I'm working with at the minute, he gets very attached to people that he's never met, but he's seeing pictures of, and he's like, I bet they'd be a great girlfriend. I bet they'd really like me if they knew me, but they'd never know me, would they? And he finds it very hard to understand that connection, because I suppose he feels something for them, but he also is aware that they don't know he exists.
It's a very chronic thing. I remember crying as a kid because Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell, I'd never meet him. My mum explained it to me that this was filmed way before the time I was watching it, and that he didn't look anything like that now, and he was never going to go to America anyway. And I remember lying in bed at night like...
And that devastation is so
no other
real.
man.
Yeah, it's so real though. Yeah. I remember realising, like, I think there was a film, and I made a comment about someone on the film, and my mum said, "Oh, they're not a kid anymore. This is," and it's those little lessons that you learn as you're growing up. They all add together, don't they? Like slowly breaking your heart more and more.
Something as small as that can break your heart. So it's easy to see how something like a really big, a big situation like this can make your brain just like turmoil. Do I defend? Do I like this person? How do I feel? Should I be? Am I okay to like this person? Are people gonna?
Yeah,
it's very hard to understand.
And this is what we're seeing is that jump into defence. But
Yes.
are we going to get into that later on? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's because I think understanding the levels of parasocial relationships is important, because we all experience them. To think that it's just people that are chronically online, it's not the case. So a celebrity is a sort of gossip or entertainment. So this is the equivalent of your mum likes, I don't know, Take That or George Clooney, and she's like, oh, they come on the radio, and she's like, oh, I love a bit of George Clooney. I love a bit of. She's not on his Facebook or his Instagram trying to find where he is right now. It's just very surface level. Oh,
I like them.
I'm sure I don't know why I'm like, I love his music, like he's a musician. But
it's like, is it Grimmy that does radio, BBC Radio? And it's Nick Grimshaw.
Nick Grimshaw.
I feel like I could vibe down the pub with him. You're there, like laughing away with him, aren't you, on the radio as though
100%.
And you just think, oh, we'd definitely be good friends.
100%.
Don't go any deeper than that.
It's that entertainment social relationship where you're like, you provide a good time for me, sir. And that's cool.
Yeah.
But you know, you've got no need to go and find his next signing somewhere, or like join his like.
Invite him for a beer though. Like, if you're listening, Grimmer, we want you here.
Actually, ADHD.
I think he is, or he suspects. I think a lot of the radio presenters are, because
I think you've got to.
They talk quite openly about being forgetful and like, you know, and I'm like shouting at the radio like, "You're one of us!"
Oh, 100%. That Alex lady that does the rock show on BBC One. If you see her like uploads on Instagram, she's just constantly moving. Even when the songs move, like go on, no one can hear her. She's just. But yeah, so the next level, we're gonna go off topic so many times here. We'll try
to keep it light-hearted and a serious thing.
Then you've got intense personal. This is this compulsive feeling towards a celebrity. So this might be the type of celeb person that would go to see what side hotel that they're going to be at, or looking at where they're going to be, just to get a signature, just to get a picture with them. It's not necessarily dangerous, but it's very much like. And I think
you're a fan then.
Yeah.
So when we went to see the 4 Hours, and it's like, I want to complete the set. I've spoke to all of them now, I think, or maybe there's one to go. But yeah,
I want to talk to them. I want them to know the work that I do. I want to read them my poem. I want to show them the human design that I do. And it means something to me what they think of that. Do you know what I mean? It's on your mind, but you can control that. It's not necessarily always on you. It's
not obsessive, and it's not going to break my heart if I don't get to see them.
Yeah, 100%. And then we have the borderline pathological, and it does go much further than that, and we're not going to go into like stalker territory, where it just, again, it can very much sit within the borderline pathological. But these are the kind of people, a lot of people with bipolar, unfortunately, can sit within this, because they suffer with grandiosity, where they believe that the television's talking to them, or the person that they're admiring that they watch on the TV a lot is personally talking to them. So yeah, you'll see in many fandoms, this is a lot of Reddit, you'll find these people there. And much further, it's a very dark, I'm laughing about it because it's just a terrible thing of society, and it's a sad part of society.
Well, it shows that you're perhaps missing a level of connection elsewhere to 100%. Then gain that from.
It says a lot more about that person's psyche. And when you're down here, the further you are down this triangle, the more you're at risk of confirmation bias, which is an unconscious bias that we have. Unconscious biases are social stereotypes about certain groups of people that individuals form outside their own unconscious awareness. So we all have these. Saying you don't have them doesn't make sense. We all have these.
It's biased.
Yeah. It's biased.
Well, you've got to admit your human natureness. It's like when we say you're going to judge people, but just be prepared to open the cover and be 100%. Surprised by what you find, kind of thing.
You're going to have these, and some of them are maybe a little more rational than others, and it's these irrational ones that making decisions because of them, and like your perception is changed because of them. It's about being aware and
Yeah.
not letting these things happen. So a form of, the most common form of unconscious bias is confirmation bias, which is a people's tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that is consistent with their existing beliefs. So when something like this comes out about a celebrity or a powerful figure, there'll be a lot of people that will defend based on the things that, well, what about this and this and this, and oh, well, we already know that information, or well, this is already, and it's, oh, I wouldn't feel that way, or oh, I know. So it's a very.
Is it kind of matching it to your narrative, your internal
Exactly.
narrative?
You will pick.
Well,
the
you
bits-
only see the bits that
Exactly.
relate to you. So if you're not that way inclined or something, you're not going to relate to that piece of information. So you're only
Exactly.
registering the pieces that relate to you,
100%.
and then you form a bias.
You form that bias, and it's about being aware of these biases. And if you can check yourself with these, it will stop you. And this is what I mean, people arguing online, people that have like helped each other, that are part of a
Yeah.
community, arguing with each other now.
Because they believe that they're both right.
Yeah, exactly. Of course it's going to happen. We need to stop arguing. We need to be on the same team, because we are fighting the exact same devil here.
Yeah, and the same cause kind of thing. We all want. Well, what we want is the same aim, isn't it? So it's almost like we can't allow this to divert us from that cause or to weaken. Yet we've found as communities,
100%.
the last few months, and one of the things that we were reporting from after the community festival was that positivity and that feeling of hope that we can make a better future and we can make positive changes. And this feels very much like a huge, massive step back type thing. I can't think of the word, but it's like,
Yeah.
in amongst the cat is amongst the pigeons type thing, in terms of
Exactly.
we were just starting to organise ourselves and link up around the UK, and people were
Yeah.
starting to really form communities, I suppose.
Yeah.
We don't want this to
Yeah.
tarnish that, because that is separate.
We're trying to encourage that these communities aren't based on that single figure that we believe to be the almighty leader of this.
Yeah.
Whether you've got opinions, and the most important thing is the truth.
Maybe.
And the truth, outside of what's happening in that situation, is we've got a group of people, multiple groups of people that help each other, that love each other because of the community, the festival, the things that's happened, which is way bigger
Yeah.
than one person. And I think he'd agree himself.
Would you feel comfortable bringing in the Chris scenario and kind of explaining it using that as the scenario? Because I don't think many people know who he is, because he's quite a big American
Yes.
star, isn't he?
So this ain't my first rodeo. Anyone knows I was going to wear my Life Rips top.
I thought you would. I did think I would.
That was my plan, and I just got ready, and it was so cold outside. You remember last week? I'm like, oh, we're going to come in here and it'll be dark at night. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realise it'd be next week. Like that, okay. So yeah, this isn't my first rodeo. Let me, I'll give you the intro again, but you can have us. Better. So this isn't my first rodeo. I'll say that for the fourth time in case you didn't get that. For being chronically online, a lot of people that I find really funny, that I've been a fan of, have been cancelled for various reasons. Some as little as making terrible jokes that you shouldn't about minors, which were clearly very much jokes, but in the grand scheme of things, going forward 10 years, looking back at old jokes, don't age well, and people's careers online suffer because of that.
Mhm.
Whether you want to call that cancel culture or against free speech or whatever it is, there's from that end leading up right down to the Russell Brand situation now. And there's a lot of similarities with that end with someone who I'm a huge fan of, and that's Chris D'Elia.
I'd never even heard that name till
Yeah.
Steph, but now I'm like, know all about him.
You bought
on his website.
You bought me
I
my
bought-
t-shirt.
yeah, bought merch from the guy.
100%. I have a tattoo on my neck. Says Life Rips. Don't get it twisted. I am a huge fan. Does that mean I advocate and support any that he's done?
So what did
In
he
terms
get?
of-
Did he get accused of something?
So he was accused of there was a lot of very similar situations from what I can tell. It was a lot of this idea of forming a cult where multiple women across America were forming relationships with him, where he'd go and use his power for his benefit, basically, and sleep with many women. He hasn't admitted to having a sex addiction, very much like the situation that we're seeing now. It's not, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. That's just the information that I'm giving. He was very cancelled because a lot of another load of information came out that he denies, but that involves texting underage girls. Again, whether that's true or not, like the situation now, I'm not here to discuss that. What happened was the news broke, and he went offline. And my heart broke. And again, it's like this situation, like I'm a fan of Russell Brand, but nowhere near the fan I am of Crystalia. And I went through brief stages of denial. How could they do that? They're lying, anger at this. How could he do this to us?
You were missing his content, and the fact he was in your life regularly.
I was so mad that he'd done these things because they were horrible, and leaked phone calls kind of confirmed a lot of the stuff that he'd admitted to. There was no denying it.
Yeah, but you still felt like you wanted to deny it.
It can't be true, and it was emotional turmoil. And again, I'm online seeing people defend, people be like, oh, you have to believe women. People say not all men, and it's this whole argument of it's not about this right now. There's a situation, and they need to deal with that.
Yeah, the courts need to
exactly.
We need to trust the courts to do their job.
But if you've got this community or this fan base, how do you interact with each other then? How do you then go about? Because there's some people that are going to say, oh, well, we just cut him off completely. And it might be like, okay, well, I feel like I have to do that publicly now, but I'm missing something myself. Yeah. For someone with a parasocial relationship, if anyone is experiencing isolation from being neurodivergent, you replace a lot of these social interactions with this parasocial relationship that uploads once a week to 3 times a week. You know when they're going to be there for you. It's some of these people, similar to what's happening now, they might have helped you save your life. They might have got you out of alcoholism. They might have given you a reason to start living.
Yeah.
They might just be that bit of dopamine that you get every week that you rely on to get that small bit of dopamine because they make you laugh or they make you feel good.
And then how do you cope with that?
Yeah, exactly.
You've been let down by them, or they've done something, or apparently done something, whatever the case may be, and whoever we're talking about, that doesn't align with your beliefs and your moral conduct. So then, like you say, are you still allowed to be a fan? I mean, I'm just looking up at the chat.
What's the chat saying?
Great to see you, Nikki. Yeah, he's here. And yeah, I mean, Nikki's saying he's just put in
the cat.
Yeah,
by the way.
Cat in the live audience. But yeah, Nikki's just put out love Russell. I mean, if you're there, Nikki, I'm not sure if you're tending to your lovely dogs or cooking your dinner, but personally, is it not going to affect how you feel? None of our business. I mean, we don't want to get into the ins and outs, but
no one's saying
it's
that
affecting.
You don't. Of course, people are going to love. People, everyone's got people that love them for multiple reasons, which is why I'm just saying, they could have saved your life. They could just be that. Yeah. You can hold someone accountable and love them.
And still love them and still be a fan of who they are.
If anything, you're doing them a better justice by doing that.
Yeah.
As giving any defence on someone that, I saw a really good take by Lala, Let Me Explain. She's very good at covering feminist stuff and abuse and stuff like that. She's great for stuff like this. And she said, we all wish we were that strong feminist that could cut even our brothers out if we heard this stuff. But the reality is it's not that simple. How many people out there who are listening right now, or even you, Linz, that have known someone that has gone to jail, has got in trouble, but you love that person. You know that they've done something wrong. You know that you're angry with them that they've done something wrong. But you also love them and you care about them. And the idea of them going to jail or something terrible happening to them like that,
even though they've done something terrible,
it weighs on you. It's not black and white. And to try and, it's the same as saying, I don't have any bias. It's not black and white either. It's just not that simple. And that's why being conscious of these unconscious bias, these confirmation bias, this like, you know, fitting your narrative, you got to step back from that and be real honest with yourself, real honest. Because as a Crystalia fan, I recognize that if someone says to me, that guy really triggers me, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and
I'm not going to force my fandom onto you. I'm not, you know, when someone's in the comments saying like, oh, this happened, the last thing I'm going to do is chime in and be like, well, he makes me laugh, so...
Yeah, it's just a case of keeping that opinion to yourself, I suppose, isn't it?
Keep it to yourself, but be aware of it.
Be aware of why you hold it.
Yeah,
kind of
don't
thing.
let it help you. Don't let it impact your decision making. Don't let it influence the way you carry yourself especially within a community of people that were helping each other. This is what's breaking my heart.
It is. We've struggled with it, haven't we? Because we're on doing our usual thing of being on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and what have you. And what we're seeing is comments amongst people that were usually supportive of that particular platform or whatever it is, kind of like falling out amongst themselves and maybe judging the people that have created content because of, like you say, narratives that they've already got internalized. Because we don't actually know. Sometimes we've got communities that we interact with a lot, that we've never met them face to face, but we feel quite like connected and involved with those people, and we care about them. And if they suddenly then start turning and, I don't know, judging us because of something that's then happened for somebody else, it's very much of like, you know, let's put this fire out before it gets out of control kind of thing, and move that to one side, let it be dealt with.
Yeah. These relationships you have within these communities aren't parasocial. You both know about each other.
Yeah.
You both share conversations and stories and like heal together and grow together. So they're not parasocial. Keep those. They aren't worth falling out about or arguing about. You can still be there for each other, whether it's a sobriety platform or for neurodivergents like us, or, you know, whether you're into your crystal healing or your massaging or your barefoot shoes, whatever they wear. You know, breath work, Wim Hof, all these things, they would have helped you. And just don't turn your back on the other people that were there as well, just because their opinion differs to yours.
Yeah.
I know it's horrible to say, but your opinion doesn't matter either to anyone else. And that's fucking, I hate saying that. That sounds harsh to say.
But it's like you can have an opinion, but you've got to be aware you can have it, but it's not worth all that much, if you see what I mean. It's like, I will value your opinion because I am, you know, that's the kind of person that I am, but it doesn't mean I've got to accept it or be offended by it.
Or adopt it.
Yeah, or adopt it. It's like, I will value your opinion.
100%.
But then it's a case of being aware of myself that I then don't start going, but what about this? And, you know.
Yeah.
You should believe this.
100%. Sorry.
No. Well, I mean, the other thing that we've that's come off the back of the what's happened over the weekend is that we are very, very keen to see a brighter future for women in general, and for men, and that is going to include educating people about consent. So regardless of what the income or opinion or any of that's going on over there, consent is something that moving forward we need to be a hella more crystal clear of what consent actually means. And I actually covered it in PHSE last Thursday, and I was sticking up
God's work.
Sticking up the speech bubbles yesterday or today, and one of the lads had written, if you have to beg, it's not consent. And it stuck with me because I thought, we've got to teach these young men and young ladies this, because that is so true, that a hesitant can mean a forced or a, you know, you've been manipulated into it and all the rest of it. And a lot of my young people that I work with, they've been in horrible situations, so they've learned very quickly how to manipulate to get by. So they've learned how to play people to survive, not to be mean.
You learn to manipulate way before the sexual age.
Yeah. And then they're hitting puberty. and they've got these desires and these urges, and then
skills.
And then they realise that these skills will come into use there as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things in my age group, when I've spoken, I mean, I even toyed with the idea of, well, we're going to create this book, and we may still in the future, but it was with Kyle's sister. And it was to do with consent and rape and how many of us have actually experienced that growing up. Because actually, in our younger days, it was almost kind of the norm for somebody to go on and on and on at you about sleeping with them until you did it. And to think that now, as the age female woman that I am, disgusts me.
Yeah.
But that was the society that I was a part of. And I really want to change that. That's something that I've got a lot of friends that have got daughters, and I speak to them, I'm openly like, would you dare say no and stuff? And I do think it's changing.
Yeah.
I actually think that we're finding a lot of stronger, it's okay to say no, and then
100%.
men accepting no and realising, kind of having that little bit more awareness that they don't want to do it, so just don't do it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this idea of holding, because they say not all men. Well, not all men until every man and woman understands what consent is, what isn't okay, and can follow these rules. I think one side is consent, 100%. We need to make that more clearer. The other thing is, how many people understand consent, but then actually can make the right decision in the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
It's two separate things, both just as important as each other. They need to both happen at the same time, because an example I use is that I know smoking's bad for me. I feel the effects of smoking already being a detriment to me. Do I stop smoking? No. I will do at one point, I tell myself. But that's my unconscious bias telling me that of course I'm going to, because it fits my own narrative and doesn't actually make me think that I'm struggling. So, yeah, people know what's right and what's wrong, generally. And to think that anyone that commits rape or sexual assault is a psychopath, or they've just misunderstood, there's an in-between there. And the reason that someone will make a decision like that in the moment to push maybe a little more than they should do to try and have sex with someone, to convince someone to have sex with them, the lengths that they will go to try and convince someone. Oh, my brain's gone. What was I saying?
Oh no.
Oh no.
I'm trying to backtrack. Like, what was the first point that you were making?
Making the decision at the right time.
You were giving an example.
Yes, the reason that a chronic reason, the most common reason that people will do that is insecurity. Being insecure with yourself because you don't feel like you have enough to provide to naturally and healthily and honestly attract someone that you think you deserve. So manipulation, how does this look into a manipulation, controlling, narcissism? I'm sure we've all been in these relationships, and again, it's not just men that do this. Is a common problem with insecurities. The problem with men, for example, as a different thing to women, is that they have the power aspect. A lot of them are stronger, a lot of them are bigger. I know it's not a generalization, but it can be the case, and therefore the way that they exercise this manipulation, controlling behavior is through more violence ways through that. Women can manipulate and do things all in their own game, but this is why I'm concentrating now on men. So we need to be looking at people's own psyche, own.
It all comes down to us again, and the inside of
being self-aware,
healthy well-being, healthy
100%,
healthy psyche, like you say.
So saying like, oh, I don't have any unconscious bias is very similar at this point as saying, oh, I've never forced a woman. If you're sat there as a guy, I know it's really hard, and the idea of you to look at yourself as a rapist, that's the last thing I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say, can you think of times in the past where maybe you thought, she probably didn't want to do that then, and because a lot of people say that's if you're married, especially.
Well, the most common rape actually happens in marriage. And,
exactly.
I read a lot about like what these therapists say. And one lady, she'd said that she said, I think I find it really sad that if I say to a woman, have you ever been raped, she'll say no. But then she'll say, she'll start talking to her about marital sex. And it's like, do you ever do it with your husband when you don't want to? And she's like, yeah, but you know, everyone does that, but you just do it to keep them happy, or you just, and it's like, how is this got to the norm? You just do it to keep them happy.
And other women will say, oh, just have a glass of wine and you'll get on with it. And that, again, is
like,
going against it.
I mean, Anna said on here about it's strange that schools teach sex education, but that they never speak about, or they never spoke about consent.
They most definitely did at my time. Has that changed?
Well, I was just going to say, it's definitely been brought in a lot more, the idea of consent, but the way it's covered is very... Oh, it just makes you cringe, kind of thing. It's not very.
I look at how it's covered.
Well,
that's quite an interesting
I will tell
topic.
you one thing to watch: the cup of tea video. Now, when I did consent last year or before the summer holidays, there's a video that's been created for kids, for schools about consent.
Do you think I can watch it now?
I bet if you googled consent cup of tea, it will make me absolutely laugh my head off. So it was great because we put it on. Consent video cup of tea. It's coming up. Look, right. Oh my god. So me and my student. We laughed our head off at this. Then we spoke about genuine consent, about sex. Because why are we saying a cup of tea? It's a typical UK British thing, isn't it? Like, we can't say what we're really talking about. So we'll talk about something that uses something in that scenario.
Right, yeah.
You know, so yeah, so play it for everybody to see. And it's actually hilarious. Kind of cute.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go,
yeah, so you've got to hear from
if you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go, oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you. Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, you know, I'm not really sure. Then you can make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware that they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important bit, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you're entitled to watch them drink it.
Brilliant.
And if they say, no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay?
It's great.
They might say,
tea, okay?
yes, please, that's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind, and you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they are unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea, and they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea, and they said yes, but in the time it took you to boil the kettle or brew the tea and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down, make sure the unconscious person is safe, and this is the important part again, don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they are safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it, going, but you wanted tea last week, or to wake up.
Can you think of anything worse?
Like I say, it was a great tool, but they've improved this. When it was originally made, it was aimed at primary school kids, and it was aimed to be less intrusive.
No,
but now at the start they've actually said, instead of sex, let's imagine it's tea, and it's actually hilarious.
Yeah, you know, I've never done that. How many of you have just remember that good time? Hey stranger. That's the equivalent here. With any intent to no.
Yeah, exactly. Remember last week you wanted tea then, why not now?
Hey stranger.
Now's different to last week. But
that's hilarious, sorry. I will keep going.
Do you think it's good?
Yeah, I'll keep it going.
Yeah, go on then.
Say
No,
something.
I might actually.
But you wanted tea last week, or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, but you wanted tea last night? If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you are able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea.
Or is he going to have sex? Because now I'm thinking of them as one and the same.
Wow.
And the next time Lee asks me if I want a cup of tea, I'm like, so he would have no idea what I'm talking about.
You know what? See, I give some tea right now. I'm just like, I'd be really disappointed when he comes in with actual tea. Just like, oh, babe.
I don't actually want that tea now. And then he goes, drink it anyway. And I'm like, excuse me.
You need to watch this
You
video.
need to watch this video.
So shout out to Rockstar Dinosaur Pirate Princess for the script, video blueseatstudios.com, narrator Graham Wheeler, and animation Rachel Bryan. Animation,
Thames
oh
Valley
my
Blues
god.
shared it, whether they commissioned it to, or if they've just shared it. But yeah, it's really good.
Sent by Thames Valley Police. I don't know if they've
be honest,
commissioned it or.
Do you know actually reflecting on my lesson with my youngsters last week?
Yeah.
I actually feel like they got it more than some of the conversations I've had with men in the pub. As in, there is hope because our younger people are way more aware and
100%
open-minded. Like, if I try and have this conversation down the pub, a lot of males my age, they've had enough of hearing about women's rights and consent, and they've had enough of feeling bullied.
Yeah.
So they're very defensive straight away, and I suppose I get it because
they come from a time where this stuff wasn't considered bad.
Yes.
So
yeah,
again, that internal bias of like, I'm defending my own place now, my own, because you know the amount of times it's probably common practice for them to at the weekend to have been like, all right, how you doing down a pub, and not let that woman leave until they got what they want, because it was that culture of like, you know,
it's the woman's fault for not saying no, or not.
And women play hard to get, you know, if they say like, you know, you're
she's
taught
just
from a
playing
young
hard to
age
get.
like, oh, he's only pulling your hair because he fancies you, and you teach women from a young age that men treating you badly is actually them not being able to be a big boy until they fancy you.
A lad threw a sandwich at me at Rawlins, and I remember going home to my mum so annoyed, like, this guy threw a sandwich at me, and my mum was like, it's because he fancies you. And it's right, it is actually true. I tell the shit same thing, but like you say, all I'm doing is making the cycle worse, that it's okay to not know how to use your words.
But how often does that teacher or parent go to the boy and say, what are you throwing sandwiches for? If you fancy them,
yeah. I mean, to be honest, we do that to our lads as well, and then they'll say, they'll say, why do you lot always think we fancy each other? And I'm like, because you like the way that you're treating each other is a bit like flirting. When you're being so mean and slapping each other and nicking each other's pens and being mean to each other, it just makes us think you're interested in each other. But they really hate it when we're like, you fancy each other. They're like, they probably don't realise what those feelings mean.
These are your tools that you have. That's how you go through life. Do you know what I mean? That's how you deal with it. So it's about, that's the tools you have to be able to address someone that you're into.
I wish I could have
or
some
you're
tea
intrigued
right now.
by.
That's funny, everyone's talking about tea in the chat.
Anna's in for the tea.
Nick is offering tea to anyone going, look. It's slightly parched. There's actually, and there's a very clear consent there as well. Everyone be careful. What I was going to say, the other point to just quickly make as well, which is again a serious point, but with a funny twist, because obviously that's what we do. We bring fun to the serious.
It's easy to digest.
Seriously, but yeah, it is easier to digest. But we had a conversation in the pub with a guy. Not going to name names, and he was talking about it's okay to slap girls' arses and this, that, and the other.
I remember.
Yeah, and we were talking about it in the sense that it's a really difficult one because he's obviously always had quite positive responses from slapping girls' bums because he's a good-looking chap. So obviously they're going to look around, go, ooh, smile, whatever. So for him, he's been rewarded with the smile, rewarded with the positive outcome. So what is the harm in slapping a girl on the bum? They don't mind. They wanted it anyway. He didn't know they wanted it yet, but he assumed they would because that was what his experience.
Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't they? Look at me.
Yeah, look at me. But the fantastic thing that you turned around to him and said was, so is it okay if a guy slaps your ass then?
His face changed.
Yeah, and I think that is the main, the biggest tool for teaching this is, you know, yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough, but how would you feel if a guy walked up and slapped your ass and you've looked around and there's a guy there grinning, like, how would it make you feel? And it's not about it being wrong or right, it's just about being aware of how it makes you feel.
100%.
And that sometimes you might not feel vulnerable because you've never been in a position to actually feel vulnerable, but I have, like, and so when I have then been, you know, assaulted, as it were, like that, it makes me feel on edge. I've had somebody say to me before, I want to have sex with you, and I'm going to have sex with you. And I literally went straight over to my brother in that scenario and told him what they'd said. But my brother isn't necessarily a fighter, but I was like, I need to leave this pub now. Like, what, like, in what right mind are people saying things like that?
And that is an example of how we need men. That's why when we talk about this feminist movement, if you're sitting there going, why would I want to be part of a movement that wants men to be eradicated? It's not it. Lindsay's just explained to you a part where she felt she needed a man's safety right there. Because a man's safety can help protect her from another man's evilness.
He was going to have sex with me because he wanted to.
Zero consent.
I spoke to him.
Very controlling.
I actually confronted him months later, and he was like, well, he just said, oh, I don't even remember it being like that. And no, that was it. He did he said he didn't understand that it made me feel that way, and because in his mind he just didn't think it was that bad, and blah blah blah, and he was drunk. And it was like, look, I thought we was like, you know, pub mates, so for you to come out with something so threatening, how did you expect me to take it, you know? So hopefully it made him think in the future, but who knows? Definitely. And then the other thing is the fact that the only excuse that will get a man away from you is, I've got a boyfriend. Not no. The amount of times I've had to lie, I'm like, no, I'm not interested. Why are you not interested though? Because
the respect of another man is way more important.
Yeah, than my no. In my consent, me saying the amount of times that I've just pretended I've got a boyfriend, because that will, even then they're like, well, I won't tell him if you don't. But it's the only way to get them away. Yeah. It's like, I'll ring my boyfriend. I'll bring my pretend boyfriend on you. And I've got wedding rings to like reduce the amount of attention, you know. Yeah. All sorts of tricks.
Nikki's just put a great comment. We are the protectors. We are not all bad. I know. And I 100% get that. I believe you. I believe more than anything that you, especially Nikki, are a great man.
The thing is,
and that is we
need the good men on board, because there are bad eggs out there, men and women, but we need the good ones for all to be on the same team. It's not about us saying like, you know, it's a witch hunt. 100%. It's really not. It's just that we need men to be as aware of the issues as women. Living with my brother, he honestly was like, Linz, I had no idea of the additional fears that women go through until I lived with you. And then he saw me like panicking at night because it was dark and I thought someone had followed me home, or he saw those instances in the pub and has have to leave, and he, you know, he saw the after effects or the behind the scenes 100%. Effects, if you see what I mean, and it taught him a lot about his previous past behaviour as well. So
when you see this firsthand, it has a bit more impact with you. But again, if it's happening to a situation like with a celebrity where you think you know one person, you don't know the other, and it's easy to. So when you say with the protectors, one of the things we need you to do when it comes to protecting us is not defend people who are being accused of stuff like this.
But not think they've done it either, just not say anything. Which he hasn't, to be fair. I even asked him outright.
Exactly.
And then was like, actually, no, we're not meant to be talking about opinions.
Honestly, the statistics about, because I know a lot of people say, oh, people can lie, and of course they can. The statistics around that are way more impactful and show you a bit more about the situation. So it's understood that about 3 to 4% of reported cases are false. It's very, very small compared to the amount, you know, you're looking at about 98,000 roughly that happens a year, down to the amount that are actually reported, down to the amount that actually go into court.
Down to convictions.
Yeah, down to convictions, you're looking at around 2,000 people. It's minute. And another statistic that blew my mind is that a man is 230 times more likely to be raped himself than to be falsely accused. So when it comes to defending someone that you don't know or whatever, just please be mindful of that statistic.
Yeah.
And the chance of them actually lying or being false, making false claims.
You're more likely to be raped.
Yeah. So just,
Silly.
yeah, even if you've got your opinion, I'm sure you've got your opinion. We've got our opinions, and there's a reason that we've kept them out of this conversation. And that's because, and I'll say it again for the last time, they don't matter.
See, yeah, Anna's saying on here that I once told a guy I didn't want to go back to his flat, and he said he wasn't taking no as an answer. Now, that seems such a casual thing to say, I'm not taking no as an answer, but actually, that I've heard that before, and thinking of
She's playing hard to get.
Yeah, thinking about it, if you're kind of into the guy when they're like, I'm not taking no as an answer,
Yeah.
you don't see it as a manipulation tactic, do you? You just see it as,
100%.
oh, well, I can like kind of relinquish this responsibility of going into it, but I'm not going to take no as an answer. That's pretty, I don't know, it's just obvious what they're not going to take no as an answer. It's
ridiculous.
But even Anna's saying as well that I have a boyfriend doesn't even work anymore. They'll just say he doesn't have to know. And when
The last chat, do you remember DJ Smokey?
Yeah.
You guys in a relationship. Don't worry if you are, I'm not. It's
Yeah,
a problem
yeah.
for me. And it was like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, well, even with
Right.
the I have a boyfriend thing, I remember when me and Lou was in Sunny Beach, and we were getting like
Shouting out Bulgaria.
yeah, and we was in this club, and there was a guy, and he was going on and on at me, and I was like, I've got a boyfriend, and he kept grabbing me and telling me about it, and he was like, where? Like, where
Yeah.
is the boyfriend? Luckily for me, a guy saw what was going on and put his arm around me and was like, I'm here. He didn't know me, like, you know. But
Can we have a moment of silence for those men? Because I've
the protectors.
I've experienced you a few times on
Yeah.
that out. Not every time, but the amount of time. And often, I've experienced where I could just go up to one guy and go, please, can you just pretend you're with me a second? This guy's...
Yeah.
And they have.
And they have, yeah. And the other one as well, last Christmas at Butlins, so this was really recent. I was at, and obviously, like I say, I'm a lot stronger now. And this
Perception's a lot stronger.
yeah,
about what's
I was at
okay
the
and what's
bar,
not.
and there was a guy, he came right up behind me, and I could feel his, like, whole body, all up my back. And
Sexual assault.
so I just literally turned around and I went, do you mind? Like, just showed him up. And his two mates were like so embarrassed. And he was like, what? So who gets aggressive? Who suddenly gets
Exactly.
abused? It's
How quickly did you get that? Well, you're ugly anyway.
yeah, it's
Okay.
like, well, you were the one that was just grinding me, so
Yeah.
without me asking.
No,
But
yeah.
I just went, do you mind? And he was like, what? And I went, I can feel every part of you on my back. I went, there's no need to be that close. And he went, oh, I wouldn't say it was that big, but if that's what he said, you know, like straight away.
Wow.
And I went, I don't find it funny. I said,
Oh, yeah.
you've made me feel sick. And his mate was like, I'm so sorry about him. I'm so sorry about him. So look, I've had it the other way around as well, where the blokes have been like, who the fuck are you? But the friend, and that's what we need, is the friends holding them accountable and saying,
Hold your
what are
mates
you doing?
accountable.
Yeah, what are you doing?
100%.
Like, it, honest to God, made me feel sick. I wanted to punch his lights out. Like, don't put your body on me like that. But I don't think men really realise that we are up against this all of the time. Like, sometimes you're just trying to have a night out, or not even that, just trying to do the goddamn shopping, and you're getting followed around by someone going, what's your name?
If you
What's your
consider
name? Why are
calculate-
you ignoring me? What's your, and you're like, you follow me around shouting, what's your name? And
Yeah.
yes, I'm ignoring you. What do you think that means? Like,
pick up on the clues, man.
take the hint.
Read the room.
But yeah, sorry, what were you saying? What do I think?
If you were to calculate like an average, just to estimate how many times experiences like that, from the lower end of just a cat call to the higher end of when you actually think, oh God, I'm in serious trouble now. If you were to add them all together and estimate in your lifetime.
Oh my God. It's slowed down the older that I'm getting.
Which is creepy, right?
Yeah, well,
You think you got more male attention as you grew into your age.
I know,
When I
yeah.
was 16, I was
Way more.
in my prime
yeah, way more.
for these strange people.
I mean, hopefully, I'm hoping it's slowed down because society is getting more aware, and not because I'm.
You know where to smash it.
But God, yeah, it's in the hundreds, easily in the hundreds. Like easily.
I know. So if you're a bloke out there talking about how many notches on your bedpost, how many of them were fully consensual? Like we just watched that tea thing. They weren't passed out. They weren't about to pass out. They weren't making...
Do you know what though? I've actually spoke to lads before that have said they've gone through with it purely because it felt like that was what needed to happen. So it's not even
another expectation as well.
It's just that realization that I think that sometimes there's that pressure, peer pressure, the expectation.
Yeah, if I'm not laying pipe and making a good impression that way, then what kind of man I am?
Yeah,
and you will always see that, like, a poor man will always steal. Because you taught him that that's what he bases his self-esteem on, his self-worth.
Survival.
And it'll be exactly the same. Kat's just mentioned it's survival. It's your ego. It's protecting yourself. It's important.
I'm just smiling at Anna saying that when we talk about the protector examples, and she's like, oh my God, yes, I hope that man gets everything he wants. That's so sweet.
Oh, I love
and this is the thing, it's like, you know, we totally are not slating. And if anybody out there is feeling attacked, then please think about why you're feeling attacked, because we're genuinely not trying to attack anybody. So if anyone is
quite diplomatically well to address the situation.
Hopefully we've added a bit of comfort out there for people as well, because for me, I have felt so kind of out of sorts. I feel like somebody's died in the family, that kind of feeling. And I think it is because we've got groups of friends that we've all been talking since July, and we've got a lot attached around the festival and things like that, and it just feels like a really strange time. So I'm hoping that we've brought some comfort to people that might be feeling triggered by it as well.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
It's really
and if you're feeling a little bit lost, like you haven't really, you know, your community's breaking down and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? That was my lifeline. Come and join us.
Yeah.
We'll help you try and build your own community back up. Do you know what I mean? We're not here to try and steal people's audiences. You're all very important to each other.
And necessary.
I would hope that someone would do the same for us. And, you know, it's a little strange to be thinking about that, but maybe sometime down the line we'll have these parasocial relationships put onto us.
Yeah, well, the thing
we have a responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things when I first started the platform, I was showcasing lots of celebrities who were either ADHD or suspected ADHD or bipolar and autistic. So it was like kind of the neurodivergent.
Normalising it.
Yeah, but every single one of them had a little bit of a cagey history with this or with that, and it was like, oh, can I really put them out there and be bigging them up when actually they've been in the news for this as well? And in the end, they had to come down to the kind of thing that no normal person made history, or no well-behaved person made history. Yeah. Because I suppose a lot of the ADHD traits are making mistakes. You know, 100%. I'm not perfect, and I've done some stuff when I was younger, like bullied people and been horrible to people that I'm ashamed of. And I would, you know, if that stuff got brought up now, yeah, I would have to be like, yes, I did do that absolutely horrendous thing. I've stole off people. I've done all sorts of things. But it's when I was growing and I was, you know,
exactly
learning. And ADHD people are way more susceptible to making those judgment calls, bad judgment calls. So, yeah, it's a tricky one, because I think everybody has got a history, haven't they?
100%. It's how you personally want to go about whether you want to forgive them or forget them, or, like I said, separate the artist from the art. People have been doing this for, God, since the dawn of time, since the dawn of celebrities. Like, how many people still enjoy a Michael Jackson song? Kind of killed it. Exactly. Kat's enjoyed it. Kat's got her arms up.
Yeah, I am as well. Straight away, I was like screaming.
But it's kind of hard to admit that now. But, you know, you can't say that when Thriller comes on, you're not like, it's not started. You know what I mean? Like, you know what? Maybe I could do this dance a little. You know, and it's separating the artist from the art. You can do that. Making peace with yourself. Okay, well, I like this person for this reason, that reason, or just being like, it's not good for my psyche, I need to cut this person off. Do what's ever right for you.
Yeah, that's the moral compass, isn't it? That's what it's all about.
Don't expect that from anyone else to follow you in that journey. And try to encourage.
Just because you like, definitely encourage it, but just because you like somebody that's got something really sordid in their history,
or had a good experience with that person,
doesn't mean that you operate like that, or that you can condone that behaviour.
100%.
You know,
you can love someone and they can do bad things at the same time.
I've
had really good experiences with people that have treated other people bad.
Yeah, with the line of work I'm in, you know, I've had to do that so many times. Like, look at somebody that I know has done something, like, and I mean horrendous, and still give them what they deserve as a human, of like a nurturing, compassionate
definitely
teacher. So it's tough, but we're here. We want to comfort you.
Yeah, and I feel like we're getting towards the end, and I don't know how
Well, we don't. That's the thing. It's like we've had some giggles, haven't we? Considering it's quite a serious topic.
Yeah. Nikki Preston, it goes down to how you're raised, 100%, and that goes down. That's what I was saying about that decision making. All right, you know what consent is. Then how you're making the decision in the moment.
Yeah.
Have you been shown to, you know, how you can cheat things? It's a dog world, or you know, we learn that through socialization.
And also the thing is with being raised is that we need communities to raise people, because the more perspectives you can have, the better. The more experiences you can have, the more well-rounded you will be.
100%.
So, you know, in terms, I think it does come down to being raised, but it's also all of our responsibilities to make sure that society is developing the way we want it to. I've not got kids, but literally nearly 100% of my friends have, and I care about their futures. 100%. I care about the future of this world.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not about what's like that specific case, but it's about us lot and how we're going to get through it together with as least damage done to us and the platforms and the communities and everybody that we want to see supported as possible.
Don't let all the good die from something that could potentially be a bad thing that we don't know yet. We don't know whatever that is. There's goodness here. Let's preserve that. Let's do it together. And if you've got any good reasons or good suggestions on how we can do that, put it in the comment section. DM us, contact us. Let's do something. Let's motivate a happy community again.
Can I just say a really a funny way to end it? I've just noticed that video.
Should we end on this? Yeah, you know what?
It's a parody, so I'm assuming it's going to be somebody that wants it all the time, or it might not be. I don't know. We've got no idea what this is going to be.
Let's play this out, shall we? So we're going to put this on, and before we do, we're going to watch T's Slut. And
it's the parody from the one that we've just watched. Right? It looks quite funny.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
So are we over and out after this?
Over and out. So we'll say thanks for coming, guys. We'll see you next week, or I'll see you next week.
Oh yeah, I'll be on holiday next week.
Jealous.
I will bring the sunshine back for you all.
Please do. So this is Lindsay.
And this is Steph.
We're A Different Human Design. And this is a different podcast. Let's watch T Slut.
Good night.
If you're still struggling with whether I'm a slut, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making me a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And I say, oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you. Then make me tea, because you know I always want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And if you're still struggling with whether I'm a slut, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making me a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And I say, oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you. Then make me tea, because you know I always want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And I'm like, let me think about that. Yes, I always want tea. Then you can make me a cup of tea because I always want a cup of tea. If you offer someone else a cup of tea and they don't drink it, and this is the important bit, I will drink their tea. I always want a cup of tea. Don't make them drink it, I will drink it for them. If they say, no thank you, don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea, just give me the tea. They did want tea, and now they don't. I want that tea. And if I am unconscious, and you have made some tea, wake me up. I will want that tea. Okay, maybe I was conscious when you asked me if I wanted tea and I said yes, but in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, I am now unconscious. And this is the important part. Wake me up. I want that tea. If I said yes to tea round your place last Saturday, then it means I want tea whenever you make it. If you can understand how completely enjoyable I find tea, then how hard is it to understand how much of a slut I am?
Why is it like this? Instead of hate, it should be love, we invite it. You don't agree, then you're the problem, now we're fighting. Open up your mind, stand up, become righteous. Why is it like this? Instead of hate, it should be love, we invite it. You don't agree, then